So for me, there's always an element of research in everything I do, and so it doesn't frighten me when I hear people want to use tissue and blood and things like that for research. That's how we make progress, and it is to the overall benefit of mankind. So good, I'm glad about that. And if I can get some benefit out of it as well, there's a double bonus.
Well, I think it's quite a fun thing, you know. It's in one strange way, you're in this worldwide trial. There are people from all over the world. You know how many people are going to be involved. They send the results to Belgium, and it's just a feeling of you being important to them at the same time as them being important to you. And I think that it just adds to the control.
As long as I can help somebody, I'll be happy. Because at the end of the day, if I can save one person with the research, I will help them. Won't be in my lifetime. Maybe in their lifetime it might be a youngster who's abusing and using drugs, alcohol, sex all over the place, STTs, whatever you call it. You've got to do this research. Research means to me that if you don't, research means to me, if you don't do research, how are you going to learn in this life?
So the thought of just sitting, waiting for the disease to take over seemed very alien. And so I thought the only proactive thing that I could do about the disease was maybe to take part in any research. I wanted to do something, and I read about the MND DNA bank. And it said they could take blood from anybody, and I thought, well, at least that's something I could do.
And I just go in and say, anything else to volunteer for? It's a passion that I have to give as much as I can, as often as I can, to as many as I can, and just keep doing that. And obviously the rewards are immense within oneself, because you realise somewhere along the line you are helping another person.
The neurologist was very enthusiastic with the results, about the results he'd received so far, and he was hopeful that in the relatively near future he would be able to publish something that would help in the diagnosis of MND. Certainly makes things worthwhile. I mean, I would carry on anyway, even if such encouraging words weren't said, but it obviously inspires one to carry on or with the research.
So there you are, you're in a difficult situation. What are you going to do with it? Well, there are two things: enjoy life to the best you can and work with it. And if there's anything in the meantime that can be done to help me, fantastic. But my other view was that if I could help others, I had nothing to lose. So this is how I got involved in offering my services to research. I was fairly particular about it in that I was happy to do any research, I was happy to give any samples, sit in machines, have MRIs, anything that was required. But the one thing I was against was having to go through any pain barrier, unnecessary pain barrier. So the one thing that I've eliminated from any research is things like lumbar puncture. But otherwise, here I am, and happy to discuss things with people, talk about my experiences, and anything else that medical research wants, I'm there for them.
They just take a bit more blood from me, perhaps, than they would otherwise. Now, I have to give the blood anyway for to monitor the side effects and to make sure that I'm not going to drop dead imminently. So I give another phial of blood at the same time. It's no big deal. I don't like giving blood because the more I do it, the more sensitised I become to doing it. But once they've got the needle in, what's one or two?
Yeah. But because I'm so happy to do them that at the hospital I'm asked, will you do this? Will you give some blood for this? Or will you do this? Or could we take some tissue for that? But I just say yes. So I couldn't really tell you how many times, because it's just as a matter of course anyway, and it's something that's easy to do. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't involve hospital stays, it doesn't involve anything.
And you go in, you can't have nothing to eat or drink. It's like you're fasting. And they inject you, numb you on your right hand side, and it'd be so the size of the needle you'd have to turn your eyes away. They numb you and they push the needle in, but prior to that, doing that, they say to me, can you give some for research? So okay, get on with it. The first one you don't feel. The second time they're going, well, the last time I had a biopsy, second time I had pain in my shoulder. It just went, I had pain down there, and I had to ask the nurse, can I have some painkillers? And they gave me pethidine to get rid of the pain.
The Biobanking study is, as I said, 5 years in duration. I have to go every 6 months, and interestingly enough, the tests that one has to undertake have changed slightly in that 18 months that I've been going so far. There's an eye test that has been added, which is quite fun actually, because it involves following a ball or following things on a screen with your eyes, and it can be quite tricky, some of the questions that are asked. Other aspects of the study is to take a 50-minute MRI scan, and I've taken several of those in the past, and it's not a pleasant experience, but it's always interesting.
It's a whole day process. The larger proportion of it is scanning, which is of the brain and the spine, and there are various other tests, including lumbar punch, which is extraction of the fluid that they then can spread and find various research from that, and it's something which also includes a mental response of how your brain is, the responses is giving out, and that is originally done on paper but is now done through the eyes on a computer image.
Yes, Biobanking is a combination of all sorts of tests really, and going from cognitive function, which funnily enough is probably the test I least like, because I'm always concerned that sooner or later they'll discover the truth about my cognitive function. And there are the MRI scans, which of course isn't everybody's cup of tea either. You do have to be able to lie flat, And funnily enough, although I cannot get off to sleep lying flat, I'm reasonably okay when I'm awake and lying down. That's all right. And I've found that I don't generally suffer from claustrophobia, and loud noise has a tendency to send me to sleep. So what I find with the MRI scan is there are all these sort of vibratory sort of I suppose sounds almost, really, but you've got a combination of noise and vibration, which I find quite interesting, as it's sort of pummeling up and down. And I'm an afternoon snooze, but the difficulty is being told that they do like resting brain, but they prefer it if it wasn't sleeping. And then you then go up to the neurology ward, where you've been in the scanning unit for most of the time before that. Then you go up to the neurology ward to have a lumbar puncture. It is not compulsory to have a lumbar puncture, and they make that very clear. And also, the fact you've agreed to it one time means that there's no compunction on you to do it again. If you want to opt out, you can do so, and there really is no pressure whatsoever. But for me, it is not a worrisome experience at all. It's a question of sort of lying fairly still and as curled up as one can manage for a few minutes. And I think the worst bit is probably the cold disinfectant on your back, really. A very tiny, tiny injection of local anaesthetic. And to be honest, I've always been one who, once the local anaesthetic's working, it's fine. It really is.
I think you said your wife took part as a healthy volunteer.
She did, yes.
Just tell me a little bit about what was involved for her.
Right, well, on the first occasion when we were approached about giving blood samples and doing MRIs and things, they were looking for healthy people to take part as well. So we decided that as a couple we would take part. She was very happy to do that. She actually went further than I did. She was prepared to let them try the lumbar puncture process, but unfortunately there was a difficulty, so it ended up not happening. They did try, but she was uncomfortable. So, and again, you see, that's evidence as to the caring of the team. They tried to take a sample from her. They realised that she was in discomfort and immediately stopped it. So that gives you confidence to do things going on.